Bringing the passion for the Pacific League, it's PAWcast, the officially unofficial podcast of the Pacific League English YouTube channel. Hosted by Jimbo Bernicki, Michael Bealey, and Gabe Lerman.
Good morning, good evening, good everything in between. Welcome to episode 4 of the podcast. I am your illustrious, well-beloved, well-spoken, and well-beloved... I said it again. I had to double up there. Your host, Jimbo Bernicki. And to my right, we have the illustrious, the talented, the ever-so-wonderful Gabe Lerman. How you doing today?
Well, my sleep schedule is finally back to normal after the most recent midnight matinee. Thank you to everyone who tuned into that. And if you missed it, the whole archive stream is available on this same YouTube page that you're listening to this from.
Exactly. Yeah, you can always check it out after we've already done it. And speaking of, we have also the color commentator from that game. The color commentator of all the games, our super Mr. Knowledgeable, Michael Bealey. How you doing, Mike?
My sleep schedule was also screwed up from that, but that's because I was at a convention all weekend. So I had to wake up at 8 a.m., go convent, and then do the game, and then go convent again at 8 in the morning the next day.
Oh man, you've been working hard lately, haven't we all, though? So here we are today with our 4th episode of the podcast. It's been going great. And to kick off this week, it's the first week that the All-Star ballots have been made available for the votes. And I gotta say, I am genuinely super surprised by some of the vote getters. On the one hand, I'm not surprised at all that Roki Sasaki leads the way for starting pitchers. On the other, I am kind of surprised that Tomoya Mori is leading all players by a mile with votes, at least from the Pacific League. He's got, I think 20,000 more votes, 10,000 more votes than his nearest competitor. What's up with that? Do you guys have any idea why Mori, he's having a good season, but what is it do you think that's getting him this many more votes so far into the season?
If memory serves, Tomoya Mori has a WRC plus very close to 200, so he is batting twice as good as the average Pacific League player. On top of that, you're talking about a marquee free agent going from a Tokyo team to an Osaka team, so a lot of eyeballs, and he's joining the reigning Japan Series champions. A lot of eyeballs are on him, and he's reveling and succeeding in the spotlight.
I'm still just kind of surprised, though. When I'm looking at the numbers, the second highest vote getter is Yuki Yanagita, who, has been having an all-star season. To say the least, he's having an even better season than Mori so far, but still, Mori's got a lot more votes than he does. I just find that kind of surprising.
Could be a matter of everyone just agreeing that at catcher position, nobody else is performing as well.
You know, it is probably that, actually. It is probably that, yeah. When it comes to being catcher, he is by far and away the best offensive catcher in the league right now. Though, of course, Mr. Roki Sasaki is leading the way with pitchers, even though he has missed the last couple games, and even though Mr. Yoshinobu Yamamoto is having a very good season so far, Sasaki does still lead the way. I'm going to take a quick look over here through the All-Star votes, see if anyone else really jumps out. Kitaro Kiyomiya, who, I'm always praising him, always saying I think he's going to do great. This season, though, he's missed a couple games and not been as promising as we'd hope, but he is still leading the way. I'm not sure that's entirely justified when it comes to performance, but it is interesting to see that he is leading the way. Along then, when it comes to every other position, it's about who you would expect. Though, again, to have Yuki Yanagita leading the way for DHs, I know he's played a fair few games at DH this season, but I don't think of him as a DH in the same way that I think of Takeya Nakamura as a DH. That's a DH, you know what I mean? So I'm a bit mystified at the voting process, but overall, I think the right people are in the right place.
And more importantly, if he does get elected, it's not like he's required to play at DH. Whoever is going to be managing the Pacific League team can always move him to the outfield before the game starts.
Even though, just as I'm saying that, looking at the results, to have Kensuke Kondo have more votes than Yanagita at outfield, when, again, just for me, when I think of who's the DH for Fukuoka and who's the outfielder, I think of it the other way around. But that's just me. So yeah, Mike, did you have any headlines you wanted to get to?
So on my note sheet, I've dubbed this Sasaki Madness because it's two Sasaki-related things. You'll see in a moment. But this month, right now, today's 5/23, so it's happening right now in Japan, time ahead, it's the 24th. The 70th Spring Tohoku High School Baseball Tournament is happening, and we're in the quarterfinals, and it's between Ofunado High School and Ichinoseki High School. Eyes are on Ofunado because their ace is Reiki Sasaki, the younger brother of Roki Sasaki.
Oh, that's cool. I didn't even know he had a brother.
I couldn't find anything on if he's throwing 102 as well. I did look for a little bit. I didn't find much. But if he's the ace of that high school, then he must be just as good, if hopefully. And then one high school in particular still in the tournament is Hanamaki Higashi High School. They are looking to win their 5th consecutive tournament,
Wow.
and notable alumni from that high school include Shohei Ohtani and Yusei Kikuchi.
Wow. Damn.
And
Okay.
also,
They must be a powerhouse.
keep an eye out on their 6 foot tall, 250-pound slugger Rintaro Sasaki. No relation.
Okay. I was about to say, what's going on in the Sasaki family?
Iwate is a strange place.
Wow. Okay. Well, listen, if you want to be good at baseball in Japan, name yourself Sasaki. Doesn't matter.
If you get a chance, Koshien Field of Dreams is a documentary around Hanamaki Higashi as well as other schools in the Koshien High School baseball tournament. It's an excellent insight into how these kids grow and develop and are shaped into professionals. I think Otani makes a cameo himself.
Have you seen the tournament they have for the adults, the Koshin Masters?
No.
What? No. What?
There is a Koshin Masters tournament where it's for basically for players that never got to make it to Koshin during high school, but some players who did, they play anyway. Basically, as adults, they get their old high school teams back together, including their former managers, their former teachers, the former, class rep, all the main characters from your favorite anime. They're all there in their 40s and 50s. They play exclusively on Sundays, so pretty much many people are allowed to play as possible. I think there's a special rule that you're only allowed 1 or 2 at bats, so that way everybody gets a chance to play. And you play through tournaments, much like in high school. And your ultimate goal is to get back to Koshin, where they will play, and finally realize their Koshin dreams.
Wow, that's super cool. I had no idea about that,
Right.
man.
And there's also a promotional movie. I don't know if it's sponsored. It's called Koshin Again, which is about that tournament, and it's actually available in English, surprisingly enough.
Well, that's awesome, man. High school baseball in Japan, like the culture is just so awesome. Like I can't think of another word for it. Like it's so cool, just so interesting.
It's Japanese March Madness, but for a whole month.
But it's like it's March Madness meets Texas high school football meets Minnesota high school hockey. Like it's like the zenith of all amateur sports in the way we understand them as North Americans, but like totally on one sport. And like it's such a phenomena.
It's why
it's so
Koshien
cool.
Stadium was built, and it
Yeah.
also picks the professional team out of there and into the Buffalo's home ballpark for 3 weeks every August.
Yeah, but like I'm saying, like imagine that from our North American perspective. Imagine there being a high school football tournament so big that it kicks the Dallas Cowboys out of Cowboy Stadium for like a month. Like that's insane. Like that's just like the idea of such a thing is outrageous. But it's totally normal there, and like I love it. I love it, love it, love it.
My headline is a bit more somber. One of the Pacific League's greatest players and managers passed away over the last week, a fellow by the name of Futoshi Nakanishi. At 90 years old, true, but still, what a career that this Hall of Fame player had. I do try to bring a little bit of history into everything that we do here on the podcast, and it's important to know some of the names, especially if you get to go to Tokyo Dome and visit the Japanese Baseball Hall of Fame. You might be able to point them out. 7-time All-Star, 7-time Best Nine winner, Pacific League MVP in 1956. So we're talking the first decade of the Pacific League's existence.
Wow, yeah.
2-time batting champ, 5-time home run champ, missed the Triple Crown 4 times. And all of that was with the Lions franchise when it was located in Fukuoka, including 3 straight Japan Series championships in a row from 1956 to 1958. After his playing career, he then spent 27 seasons as a manager or coach of the Fighters, the Tigers, the Swallows, the Buffaloes, the Giants, the Marines, and finally the Blue Wave, where he won the Japan Series for the last time in 1996.
Damn, wow. Yeah, that's incredibly impressive. I didn't know, unfortunately, I didn't know about him until this, but like, man, what a player from the summary you've given.
So on the subject of that, it is difficult to think about that in the coming decades. There's going to be a lot less of those guys around than there already are, because so many of those great players, that we all think about when we think of, Japanese baseball and NPB are in their 80s and their 90s. And it's, it's just something I've been thinking about a lot because recently we lost Katsuya Nomura.
Yep.
few years before that, we lost Sacho Kinugasa. I mean, I think last year we lost Choji Murata.
And Hiromitsu Karota.
It's like it just keeps going, it seems.
Well, I mean, not to be too sardonic about it, that's the progress of time, right? I mean, we all got to go eventually,
It
and
just seems like
all the
that's a
great
lot in a
legends.
relatively short amount of time.
Well, that's also why I'm glad that the Hall of Fame is recognizing these people while they're still alive to receive the award. Although the ballot can get a little cramped at times, there's never been any sort of excessive controversy of people falling off the ballot, with one notable exception, Justice for Tuffy Rhodes.
I assumed he was in.
Not yet.
Oh, that's unfortunate.
With that, let's keep focusing on history and let's delve into Gabe's History Corner. By the time you're listening to this, we will be either just on the cusp of or one series away from the start of the NPB Interleague session.
Let's go Interleague. Let's go PL.
For the longest time, there was not interleague between the Central League and the Pacific League because of how the two leagues were set up, and as well because of the disparities in popularity between the two. Believe it or not, back then, the Pacific League was not as popular as it is now. The Central League, especially the other teams, were worried about losing revenue from the attendance within their little club. It's unfortunate, but that's the way things were. There was a trial run in the preseason for 1999 and 2000 called the Suntory Cup, sponsored by the Suntory Whiskey Company, but it didn't go anywhere beyond that. It finally got its way into the schedule in late 2004 in response to the financial hardship going on in the Pacific League. Two teams actually had to merge to stay afloat, and there were talks of another team being consolidated out. So, based on negotiations between the owners, they agreed to create a new team to fill the void. That's where the Tohoku Rakuten Golden Eagles started. And as well, Interleague finally entered the NPB schedule. It started as just 36 games per opponent, 3 at home and 3 away in 2005's schedule. That got cut down to 24 for 2007, so 2 home and 2 away. And then in 2015, which is the scheme they have now, it's only 18 a games. You're playing 3 at home or 3 away against each opponent from the other league, which means that if you're a fan of, say, the Orix Buffaloes, you may have to wait a while to see the Giants or the Swallows come to your neck of the woods. That's also why it's only a single block of 3 weeks running from late May to early June. It makes the scheduling simple because you'll notice it's always all CL hosting or all PL hosting for each series. It's never a mix of them. And that also gives us the opportunity to crown an interleague champion with a cash prize, no less. And here's where we get to twist the knife a little bit and puff our chests and talk about how awesome the Pacific League is. The Pacific League has won more interleague games over the entire history of the interleague process in each season, in all but 3 seasons, and the interleague champion has been a Pacific League team all but 4 times. For the scorecard, the Marines have won it twice, the Fighters have won it once, the Buffaloes have won it twice, and the Fukuoka SoftBank Hawks have won it 8 times. Former interleague MVPs, which is an award they give out, include Blue Jay for Life, Munenori Kawasaki, Yuki Yanagita twice, current Boston Red Sox, Masataka Yoshida, former Hawk legend Nobuhiro Matsuda, and of course, Yoshinobu Yamamoto. So, this is important for your television viewing schedule, especially if you have PLTV. All 6 PL teams will host the Central League teams for the May 30th to June 2nd series, and then for all 6 games from June 6th to June 11th. The games that are at the Central League hosted stadiums, don't expect any highlights or broadcasts from us. Nothing on PLTV, nothing on FTF Sports, not even a highlight reel from me. So keep that in mind. And once Interleague finishes, regular Pacific League play will resume on the 23rd. I've got one date circled in my calendar for everyone who's in North America. That's June 11th. Not only are all 6 games at Pacific League stadiums, so PLTV will have them, but 5 of those 6 start at midnight Eastern. So it won't be a midnight matinee broadcast with us on the call, but there's a lot of good baseball out there. And with all 12 teams available on the internet, you really do have your pick of the litter.
Yeah, for sure. It's a great opportunity for us Pacific League fans to finally get to watch some Central League teams. And, speaking of interleague play, we do have, with the Yokohama DNA Bay Stars coming to town, we might have a certain pitcher who people are very interested in seeing, despite his struggles so far in the MPB. Maybe playing one of our Pacific League games. Again, we don't know until it happens, but keep an eye out for that. We will be trying to advertise that. Please stay tuned for that.
One other thing to note on Interleague, the games are played by the rules of the host, which means Central League teams will have a designated hitter in Pacific League parks, and Pacific League pitchers will be batting in Central League parks.
Boo. Designated hitter all the way. Pro Pacific League, pro designated hitter. Let's get more offense out there.
And now, a word from our sponsors.
What you are about to hear is a real story, as told by a real person.
I am a construction worker in New York and die-hard baseball fan. The problem is I'm always working. I work hard and I work long hours. The other day I worked a 150-hour unpaid shift getting my kneecaps smashed with a hammer. I don't have time to watch baseball. When I get home at 5 a.m., I would like to watch a game before I go back to work at 8 a.m., but there is no baseball on. I don't know what to do.
If Mark was a subscriber to Pacific League TV, for the low price of 1,450 yen per month, he wouldn't have this problem. For under $11 at today's exchange rate, he could get access to all 6 Pacific League teams, all 3 games happening every day, and almost the entire farm of NPB. If you or a loved one are currently working unpaid shifts getting your knees smashed with a hammer and not able to watch baseball at 5 in the morning, please consider Pacific League TV. This message has been brought to you by absolutely nobody in particular, as this is unofficial.
So every week we like to do our little Around the Horn segment where we each talk about the teams we've been covering so far this season. And as usual, we will go in standing order. So this week we are starting with the best team in the Pacific League, the Chiba Lotte Marines. Michael, take it away.
So I'll keep harping on this because it seems to be bringing them good luck in some ways or another. But when we first had our first episode, Polanco was still the home run leader with 3 home runs. Second and third episodes, he was still the team leader in home runs with 3. We are now recording our 4th episode. He is still the team leader in home runs with 3.
I don't know how they keep winning games, but they do. They just keep winning games.
And on that subject, Shogo Nakamura is the team leader in RBI with 13.
Despite batting, what's he batting now? Like 220?
But compare 13 to Rakuten in last place, where Asamura leads with 17. Seibu above them has McKinnon with 21. And the Fighters have Chusei Manami with 25 as their respective leaders. So nobody on Lotte has more than 13 RBIs, and they continue to win.
So I did some digging on this, and I brought this up during the Midnight Matinee. Yes, they are dead last in the Pacific League in WRC Plus, weighted runs created plus. It's a measure of overall offense. They are also first in fielding independent pitching and first in ultimate zone rating, which is a fielding statistic. They are just a clamp down defense, and that's how they're winning games.
They're great at everything that isn't hitting the ball. As long as it doesn't involve actually making contact with the ball, the Marines are fantastic at it. But man, is watching them bat a struggle.
And then here on my notes, it probably does help that all 3 teams currently in B class seem to be helping the stat padding of everybody in A class. A class being the first 3 teams in the Pacific League, B class being the second.
Oh, yes. Yeah. Okay. Mm-hmm. Yeah, you're right.
The bottom 3 are just kind of making it very easy for the top 3 at this point in time. Obviously, there's still time for everybody to turn it around. For all we know, the standings could be flipped 2 months from now.
I mean, let's not forget, interleague means a chance to get a leg up without being at the expense of your opposition.
Not only that, I would actually say there was one of the bottom 3 teams has been capitalizing on the other 2. That's, we'll get to them eventually, but there is a team making its way out of the woodwork, in my opinion.
And then here I have Sasaki. He's estimated to return on the 28th. We have a date now. There was a rain out. According to the Lotte manager, his start is still the 28th. That is not going to change. He is still taking it easy and hoping, everything will be clear by then, but now we have a date. And on the subject of his blister issues, former Giants player Kiyoshi Nakahara, a longtime Giants player and coach, was on Beat Takeshi's TV show.
Oh.
MXC, Takeshi's Castle, many of his amazing movies. And he was asked about Sasaki. He's a former player, former manager, former coach, and he voiced disapproval of the way he was being handled and the way I've been seeing, comments on YouTube. And he made a comment that got lit up online and really comes across as old man yells at cloud, which I don't want to say that's what it is because he comes from a different era. And of course, I'm using a machine translation here. I've had it double checked by some of my Japanese friends, but in his words, he says, if you throw and throw and throw, your blood blisters will disappear. And then you get blisters that are calluses, and then you never get a breakdown or another blister. I will not be satisfied until he's really prepared to that extent. He's still questioning the extent to which Sasaki's been throwing and taking the mound. So if that's accurate medical advice, I don't know. I do not suggest following his advice. It seems like the old American football mentality of
rub some dirt on
your
it.
leg broke, rub some dirt on it, tape it up, go back out there. The old 1970s NHL. Oh, your arms bent backwards, you'll be fine.
Right, you are, Ken.
Though, I mean, on the one hand, I do agree with criticizing it, but also on the other, what kind of gnarly blister did you get to take you out for 2 weeks? That's crazy. Like,
I do not want to see the pictures.
I don't want to see it. But he made a comment saying to his days with the famous on cannon, Sadahara O and Nagashima, he would say that Sadahara O would get blisters constantly and still play, and then said Nagashima would never get blisters no matter how many times he swung the bat. So I don't know what point he's making there. But anyway.
Oh, to say, look, I played with these really good players. Listen to me.
His comments were lit up online all over Japanese media, and I've not seen the clip. From what I'm reading, it seems like even his fellow hosts were kind of just like, okay.
Yeah, no, that really is a weird sense thing. Be like, listen, this guy got a ton of blisters. This guy got no blisters. Well, all right.
I don't want to say it's old man yells at cloud. He was a great player, great manager, old man great yells coach. At blisters. That too. And I understand where he's coming from, but at the same time, it is a generational talent. And as I've said before, if he wakes up one day and says his little toe hurts and he wants to sit for the game, then you sit him for the game.
Yeah, I think that's fair.
And that's what all I got for the Marines right now.
Alrighty, that brings me over to the SoftBank Hawks, Fukuoka SoftBank Hawks, I should say, who have been doing pretty good this week, 4-2. As always, scoring a lot of runs, not giving up too many runs. The bats are doing really well. I've noticed an interesting thing now that I've started watching them really consistently. The starting pitching is usually decent to maybe subpar sometimes, but their bullpen is strong. I hadn't noticed this guy before, but Levi Monello really caught my eye today when he was playing against the Fighters. Just 3 strikeouts in 1 inning of work, but like he's got such a violent delivery. He's like a tiny Aroldis Chapman, just like throwing pure heat with a really wicked curveball. And of course, then you've got Roberto Osuna coming in after that. They've got a really nasty 1-2 punch with the bullpen. And of course, as seemingly always, if you look at the stats, Yuki Yanagita continues to basically just win games for the Hawks. There's some, like, if he's not getting hits, he's getting on base. And then when he is getting hits, it just seems to always be at the right time. He gets big time home runs late in games. He gets big time. Even today, he just skied one out to the middle, to left field, still picked up an RBI on the sac fly. He just always scores runs for the teams when they need it the most. And yeah, I am honestly surprised he doesn't have more All-Star votes, because for me, again, with Roki Sasaki missing some games so far this season, to me, Yuki Yanagita is far and away the MVP so far this season.
We now head to the third place team, the Orix Buffaloes. They have been slumping a little bit. You remember last week they were in the top slot. Now they're sitting third, tied for it at least. 2-4 in the last week. They ran into a pair of streaking teams in the Fighters and the Marines before riding the ship earlier today against the Rakuten Eagles. The starting pitcher in that, Shunpeita Yamashita, otherwise known as the next Orix ace. They just keep popping out these guys. First Yamamoto, then Miyagi, now Yamashita. He was originally pitching every 10 days but in order to ensure he was resting his arm, building up his stamina, because he is a rookie. But because of his results and how well he's done, they're ramping him up and going with a regular pitching schedule. So he'll be going every 6th game. The results so far, 4-0 record, .98 ERA, 10.3 strikeouts per 9 innings, and a whip of .93. When you're rolling that along with Yamamoto and Miyagi and Yamaoka and Daiki Tajima's having a good season, good luck. One interesting note in terms of the foreign player selection for the Buffaloes, Frank Schwindel has been sent down to the minors to try and recalibrate. Leandro Cedeno was registered from a development contract. His jersey number has gone from triple digits to double, and he has already appeared in games. So best of luck, Leandro. Good luck with the club. Also noteworthy for the Orix Buffaloes is one of those comets or shooting stars you see every once in a while, a trade taking place in the NPB. The Orix Buffaloes acquired utility infielder Taishi Hirooka from the Giants in exchange for Kohei Suzuki, a pitcher. Kohei Suzuki is known as a flamethrower. He can touch mid-90s, even if he has had the occasional control issue. Hirooka is going to provide additional depth on the infield for the Buffaloes, so that way they can give Kotaro Kurebayashi or Yumamune or Masahiro Nishino a bit of a breather every once in a while. As for the nippon-ham Fighters, 4-2 in the last week. 4 of those wins were in a row. They're closing some of the distance. They're now 4th place, although there is a 5-game gap between them and 3rd, so there's that A class, B class separation. But hey, it's encouraging to see from Big Boss and his boys that they're starting to put a nifty little winning streak together. Included in that was on Sunday, the next two-way phenom, Kota Yazawa, finally got his first pitching appearance after being an outfielder to start his career. If you remember from the Midnight Matinee, we captured his first NPB hit live during the live stream. If you missed it, the archive's still up on this channel. Yazawa pitched a scoreless 9th with 2 strikeouts. It's odd to see him as a reliever because most two-way players start as a a starting pitcher. So that way, if the Otani rule is in place, incredible man that he is, you can still keep him in as the DH after he's left and been relieved with another pitcher. So interesting to see if Yazawa is going to be a bullpen or bench or starter in terms of his skill set. You know, Big Boss Shinjo, he likes to mix things up a little.
That's true. And I think that brings us over to the 5th place team, the continuously sliding, it seems. Seibu Lions went 2-4 this week, another losing week for them. And it's just, it's rough right now for Lions fans. They just always seem to either lose big or sometimes pick up the occasional last-minute win, but it's just a struggle right now. Nakamura, after having an MVP start to the first month of the season, coming straight back down to earth. He's been struggling a lot. Basically, the only bat that's sort of been kind of consistent is Shuta Tonozaki, the second baseman, who's been doing really well. But other than that, there's not a lot more to say about the Lions. They just always kind of seem to get in their own way. It's frustrating, I imagine, for the Lions fans. It's just always kind of faltering at the biggest moments or giving you just that little bit of hope to think that they're going to break through and usually not doing it. So yeah, not a lot to say on the positive side for Lions fans other than it's a long season and they're in 5th, not 6th. That's the best I can say.
Hey, I got a positive, mostly because I adore this guy. The human highlight reel, Sosuke Genda, is participating in minor league games to complete his rehab. Expectation is he'll be joining the major league club or the NPB club sometime this week.
Okay, well, there we go. Hey, that honestly, that really might be the spark plug the Lions need to get back on track. So here's to that. Which brings us over to the unfortunate basement dwellers this week, the lowest ranked team, the Rakuten Golden Eagles.
Yeah, so for Rakuten, there's really not much to really discuss. That nothing's really changed. They're in last place with a 15-24 record as a time of recording, 3-6-1 in their last 10 as a time in recording. An interesting thing that I found was Tsuyoshi Yamazaki is their team leader in average with 237. Of course, his on-base percentage I think it was about like 340, maybe 340 something when I last looked. But being the leader in average at 237 it's kind of low, I would think,
that's
to be a team.
Rough. No, that's
to be the team leader.
Yeah. No, that's not good. Let's call it what it is.
Tanaka is leading the staff with a 4.37 ERA. I do not have the advanced stats on that. I looked a bit, wasn't able to really find much that was useful. Takahisa Hayakawa is the leader in wins, and I know pitching wins are meaningless, but he only has 2 to his name. So I mean that should give you a hint to how the offense is struggling. And they suffered their fourth straight loss, and that's the second time this season that they've lost four straight. And now they are 9 games back.
Yeah,
So
it's been a rough go for the Eagles. So I think that brings us around to our familiar faces and new places. How are our Pacific Leaguers doing over stateside?
I do want to focus on someone who we neglected to mention last time. Kodai Senga. Remember him? Former
A little bit.
Fukuoka SoftBank Hawks ace.
I've heard of him.
In addition to having an adorable looking catching glove with a ghost and fork emoji embroidered onto it, Senga is now 4-2 with a 3.77 ERA over 8 starts for the Metropolitans, 55 strikeouts, and a 1.442 whip. It's his first season in the majors. There's always going to be an adjustment period, but it's great to see that he's endearing himself to the fans and to the other players with his new club. Best of luck, Kodai.
one thing I did see with Senga is that the Mets are changing the rotation around the rotation that he had in Japan, to take it easy and give him extra rest when he needs it. And, they're hoping, later into the season, maybe later into his contract, he gets adjusted to the every 5 days. But it's good to see that they're willing to work with him like that. And the success is, showing off.
Yeah, 55 Ks over 8 starts is pretty solid, especially for someone adjusting to a new league. And 4-2, I mean, 3.77 ERA, not super good, but not bad, really. I mean, it's a very respectable start to his time in America.
It's early enough in the season that a bad start or two can make your numbers look highly inflated for a while until they come back down to earth.
Yeah, exactly. So that brings us over to our community question of the week. Every week we take a question from our fans over on the YouTube community page, and this week's comes from...
That's Nanashi.
Thank you. It was like Japanese characters. History trivia: Shinjo's contribution to the PL's popularity.
Tsuyoshi Shinjo brought popularity in a couple of manners in addition to its outsized personality. Coming to the Hokkaido nippon-ham fighters late mid-2000s from other teams gave them their veteran to go win a championship for. He retired after 2006 when the Trey Hillman Yu Darvish club finally did win a championship. If you take a look at the replay, the cameras are focusing on Shinjo getting showered in ribbons, even though he didn't make the final play. He's much beloved in his native Japan. On top of that, when he took over the management of the fighters, people were oddly, weren't sure what to make of him. Again, bring that grandiose personality. At one point, he was even like trying to make a comeback as a player in his mid-40s. He's someone who adores the game of baseball, but also knows how to be a promoter. And you saw it right from his first season last year when Big Boss was on his back, not his real last name.
And he did that hovercraft entrance, which I know people who don't even know baseball who are like, that's the coolest thing I've ever seen in my life. So he's definitely a showman, to say the least. It's basically the coolest thing any manager or coach has done in the history of sports in any country, in any sport ever. And then he designed the greatest uniforms any team has ever worn in the history of ever. I don't care what you say, Gabe. Your opinion is wrong. And yeah, I think, he's putting his all in terms of both from a managerial understanding of baseball perspective and to trying to make the fighters a better team. Yeah, I think he's done a huge job of helping make the PL more popular. And that brings us to the end of this episode. As always, I want to thank my co-hosts, Gabe and Michael, for co-hosting with me. I probably should have thought that through before I started saying it. And as always in YouTube land, please like, comment, and subscribe, and share this video with your friends, and we'll see you next time on the podcast. Take care.
Take care, everyone.
Be sure to like and subscribe for more English content. Sign up with Pacific League TV for live game broadcasts, including interleague and farm teams. For viewers in the US or Canada, watch PL games with English commentary on FTF Sports, Tuesday through Sundays at 1 p.m. Eastern, or without commentary on WatchDingo.com simulcasts under the Baseball Network.